Hey squad, welcome back to my channel, and today we gotta finish this amazing book. It's so good so far, right? So I'm a bit happy today. I did take my pills today, I think. Yeah, I did. Okay, so let's get started. I may have to go into work tomorrow too, and sorry I didn't do it yesterday because I came home and I was too lazy. Honestly, I did like a chore or two, 3 maybe, and then I just played some Minecraft. So yeah, sorry. Anyway, chapter 9. Bobby was squatting on the porch over the stack of newspaper, tugging on the twine that held them. His small, dirty fingers making little headway against the knot. "Cut it, dummy," Joel said, pulling out his pocket knife like this. Cut the twine on the papers and also on the stack of inserts next to them, his hands moving with anger and patience. Bobby watched his lower lip puffing out. "You know, I don't got a knife." "Don't have," Joel corrected, gruffy. Looking away from Bobby's face. "You don't have a knife." "Well, I don't," Bobby said, and he grabbed an advertising circular and stuffed it inside a paper, crumpling both. "Take it easy," Joel ordered, thumping Bobby on top of the head with the handle of the knife. "Going to mess everything up." Bobby's face turned and began to cry. "That hurt." He rubbed the top of his head. "Everything hurts," Joel mumbled, but now the anger was replaced by shame. "What was telling Bobby about? The poor little kid is only trying to help." Joe began pulling the circles of the sack one at a time, snapping them into place inside the fold of the papers, rolling the papers to ready them for thread. Everything hurts, he repeated himself, except maybe being dead. Being dead's probably the only thing that's easy. The thought made his skin go cold and tingly. "What's wrong, Joel?" Bobby asked. "Why do you look like that?" His own pain had forgotten. Bobby was threatening, staring with enormous green eyes. "Nothing," Joe said, but the word came out sounding squeezed. "If you're going to help, start putting the papers in the bag." Bobby began putting the papers, but he didn't take his eyes off Joel's face. "Watch what you're doing," Joel snapped, pulling anger around himself again like a clock. "We've got to get the show on the road." Bobby nodded sharply and set to loading the rolled papers into the bag as fast as Joel could get them ready. Joel stuffed and rolled the fury taking over again, but this time he knew whom he wanted to punch. It was all Tony's fault, all of it. Tony knew what a poor swimmer he was. He had to have realized the risks. Now he had gone off and left Joel to answer for him. And what was he going to say? Tony's parents would probably be asking questions by the time he got home from his route. Tony isn't home. Joel, where could he be? You're the last one who saw him alive. "Damn it all anyway," Joel cried, pushing the rest of the stack of papers off the porch. "I'm sick of this stinking paper route." Bobby was sitting back on his heels, his eyes in danger swallowing up his face, peered over the edge of the porch and then up at Joel. "You squashed your mommy's purple things," he said. Joel looked too. Papers lying in the middle of his mother's petunia bed with like a flower. "Do you want me to get the papers back?" Bobby asked. "I think if you brush them off, they'll still be okay." "All right," Joel consented. "Get them back." Bobby climbed down the steps and then up again. He peered cautiously over the stack of papers carried. "They're okay, Joel," he said, laying them down reverently as though they were jewels. Joel shook his head, trying to dispel the red fog that had taken possession of his brain. If he could get his hands on Tony now, he would. But that was ridiculous. What would he do? What could anyone do? Beat Tony up? Thought he let out a choking yawn. Half laughter, half sob. Bobby was watching him again, his face wary. His lower lip clenched between small white teeth. "Are you okay, Joel?" he asked. "Yeah," Joel said. "I'm okay." He went back to preparing the papers. "I'm alive, aren't I?" The paper route seemed endless. Bobby rode behind Joe in the bicycle seat and chattered the whole way. Joe tried to listen, with half an ear anyway, but he couldn't. With each thunk of a paper on the porch, He heard instead Tony's voice, challenging, teasing. I'll bet you can't get one in the middle of Mrs. McCloug's hanging geraniums. I'm guessing words here, sorry. I'll bet you can't clip the Smith's cat. Why don't you... Wait, let me do that again. Why don't you... Joe wanted to yell at Tony to tell him to shut up. But even Bobby would think he was crazy if he started yelling at a voice inside his own head. Why did he feel so responsible? So he'd push Tony in. Why did he always have to feel responsible for everything that happened? They had gone climbing on the bluffs, and he, Joel, had fallen. Tony wouldn't have blamed himself, would he? Tony had said once that Joel was like an old grandmother, fretting all the time. Well, Tony ought to see him now. He would laugh. At the thought of Tony laughing, Joel almost smiled. He and Tony always had so much fun together. Besides the treehouse they were building this summer, they had a lot of other projects going. They always did. For one thing, they had been pooling their allowances to buy a worm farm. Their plan was to get rich selling bait. Tony had even had the idea of using his mother's meat grinder to grind whatever worms were left at the end of the summer and sell them as goldfish food. That was because Joel's father had pointed out that neither family would want worms multiplying in the basement over the winter. For his part, Joel was skeptical about whether Joel was skeptical about whether there were very many people anxious to buy worm mash for goldfish food, but he hadn't said that to Tony. Last summer, they had connected a wonderful scheme for getting rich selling decorative pennies. They found 50 pennies by leaving them on the tracks to be run over by the 3:45 train, turning them into thin, coppery discs. Their plan hadn't been exactly what anybody could call successful, though. They only sold 1 penny because every other kid in town knew how to fly in pennies, too. And they sold for a nickel was to a prissy girl whose mother wouldn't allow her to go near the tracks. They had been left with 49 pennies they couldn't spend, not even in a gumball machine. Joel tossed the last paper and turned his bike toward home. Uh-oh. Sorry, I totally got confused for a second, guys. Bobby had finally fallen silent. Joel was grateful for that. He could feel his brother's small, hot hands gripping his shirt and the puffs of breath on the back of his neck. So close, so alive. Sergeant protected this pass through Joel. I would have to teach Bobby how to swim. Bobby was afraid even to get his face in the water. Joel would start working with him right away. Every kid needed to know how to swim. Sometimes parents didn't seem to realize what a dangerous place the world is. When Joel turned the corner by his house, he could see his mother and father in the front yard talking to Mr. and Mrs. Brinsky. Uh-oh. Seeing the 4 of them standing there, their faces solemn and intent, sent a chill through Joel's bones. What were they talking about? How did they know? Or what did they know? By now, someone must have seen through his lie, or maybe the teenage boy had come back and turned Joel in. Joel coasted up the driveway and stepped off his bike, pushing it into the garage before Bobby had a chance to climb down. In the garage, she scooped Bobby off the seat and set him on the floor. Thanks, Betty said. I appreciate your help. He propped his bike along the wall, out of the way of the cars. And by the way, I was wondering, so I looked it up, and Bobby is 4. And I'm pretty sure the other kid is 12, right? Anyway, I'll help you again tomorrow, Joel, Bobby said, his face glowing in the skimmerness of the garage. And that's why I talk in a little kid voice for Bobby. We'll see, Joel said, patting Bobby's shoulder. It began tinkering with his bicycle, shifting the gears back and forth uselessly, pretending to be engrossed. Bobby watched him for a moment, then turned and headed outside with a one-legged skip. Mommy, Daddy, he called before he was even beyond the front of the garage. Joel's gonna let me help with his paper route tomorrow, too. Joel stood where he was, trying to control the way his hands trembled, the way the muscles in his face seemed to jerk. They were talking about him out there. He was certain of it. But there was no way past them without being seen, and if he stood in the garage any longer, they would probably notice that too. Shifted the gears one last time, slumped his shoulder, and pulled his head in, like a turtle, retreating into its shell. Then he stepped out into the staring light of the driveway. Chapter 10. Joel, would you come here for a moment, please? Joel's father called. Joel hesitated, wondered. Whoa. You hear that crack in my voice? Sorry. Ever since I was sick, I still had that weird thing in my nose sometimes. I was like sick for a week or two. Anyway. Joel hesitated, wondering if he dared pretend he had unheard. Then he turned slowly, came in to sit down, and moved in the direction of his father's voice. The Zabrinskys want to know where you saw Tony last. His father said when he had arrived at a sign. Tried to send an image of Tony laughing, the river water streaming from his dark hair. On the road, he said, on the road to Starved Rock. We're on the road, Mr. Zabrinsky asked. How far had you boys gone before you turned back? Mr. Zabrinsky was a big man, with huge, rather hairy hands. Sounded impatient. Oh, Joel said, scuffing the head of a dandelion with the toe of his sneaker. But as far as the bridge over the river, I guess. The bridge over the river? Mr. Zabrinsky repeated with a small gasp. Mr. Zabrinsky leaned toward Joel. He was on his way to Starved Rock, right? Right, Joel mumbled, wishing again that he had remembered the first time to tell the story he had originally planned. Besides, Mrs. Zabrinsky said Tony can't swim. He knew it better than to go near the river. I thought he could swim, just not good. Okay, so he can't swim, then why? Okay, anyway, he knew better than to come near the river. She seemed to be trying to reassure himself. I read ahead, my bad, but he can't swim? Joe asked Quentin about her. Really? I guess he thought he could swim, but not good. What was Tony thinking? That's not fair to Joel. He didn't know, I guess. He smiled. A crooked half smile that Joel had seen a million times. You must know that, Joel. You've gone to the pool with him. When he's willing to go. Joel shrugged, tried to look away. Well, he mostly played on this slide. Around the ropes, you know. But he never told me he couldn't swim. Mrs. Zabrinsky touched Joel's arm, and without thinking, he jerked away. His skin felt clammy. And he was sure the stink of the river rose from him like a vapor. Maybe I shouldn't have told you, she said. Maybe he wouldn't want you to know. He tried swimming lessons once. I did too. But he was always afraid of the water. Tony? Afraid? Joe pushed the thought away. Is that all? Yes, stuffing his hand in his pockets. Yes, his father said, I guess that's all. Joe walked away, trying to look casual, trying to remember how his feet used to move when he wasn't thinking about them. His father added to the Zabrinskys, let's call the park ranger. If he doesn't know anything, then we should probably drive out there, take a look for ourselves. I suppose I shouldn't worry, Mrs. Zabrinsky replied. But you know what Tony's like, I guess. I worry more about him than all the rest of the kids rolled up together. Joe stepped through the front door into the cool darkness of the hall. Why hadn't Tony thought about his mother? But the way she worried. Before I decided to go for a swim. Joel stood in the shower, the water streaming over his skin. He had soaped 3 times, his hair, everything, and rinsed and soaped again. The water was beginning to go cool, so he would have to get out soon. His mother would be cross with him for using all the hot water. Turned off the shower, towel dry, as he rubbed his skin. The smell rose in his nostrils again. The dead fish smell of the river. He considered getting back into the shower, but he didn't. It wouldn't help. He knew that. He put on his pajama bottoms and walked through the dark hall to his bedroom. Bobby was in bed, probably already asleep. Lights were on downstairs, and the murmur of his parents' voices floated up the stairwell. They were talking about Tony, of course. What else? Then I turned on the light in his room. He simply headed for the dark shape of his bed and lay down on top of the spread, arranging his arms and legs gingerly, as if they pained him. After a while, he heard light footsteps on the stairs, and then his mother came into his room. And then next to him on the bed, so close that he knew she had to be pretending not to be offended by the smell. Huh? What smell? Anyway, Joel, she said, are you sure you've told us everything you know? About what? He demanded roughly, as if he didn't understand what she meant. Wishing it were possible not to understand. About Tony. About what you boys did today. For an instant, he thought about telling her. It would have been such a relief to let the words spill out. To let the choking tears come. But then, he thought, about having to tell the Zabrinskys, too, and the police. About the twisted disappointment in his father's face. And he couldn't. He simply couldn't. He flopped over onto his stomach, muffling his response with the pillow. I've already told you. I got tired and came home. I don't know what Tony did. Did you boys have a fight? She asked gently. Joe remembered being mad at Tony, but he couldn't remember. Now, why he'd been mad, especially, he remembered saying, you're the one who's scared. No, he said, we didn't have a fight. His mother continued to sit there as though she expected him to say more, and after a while, Joe began to hold his tongue tightly between his teeth. It was the only way he knew to hang on to his words, to the words that threatened to come tumbling out of his mouth. I know where Tony is. And when it's I could tell you exactly where to begin looking. Finally, his mother leaned over and kissed the back of his head, and then got up to go. After she had left the room, Joel unlocked his jaws, relishing the burning pain in his tongue. A few minutes later, he heard his father's footsteps on the stairs. Heard him stop just outside his room. He waited there for a long time, but Joel pretended to be asleep, lying perfectly still and concentrated on keeping his breathing steady and slow. Finally, his father went away, too. Joel buried his face in his pillow, pressing his nose and mouth into the suffocating darkness. Would have been better if he and Tony had tied themselves together and climbed the bluffs. At least he wouldn't have been left behind. Guys, I really wish I recorded this yesterday because I have to end at chapter 11. There's 2 chapters left. But tomorrow is ASMR, and I will be reading like 2-3 small, really small children's books as requested. So, but Monday, I still have my MacBook. So I'm thinking I after school Monday, I could finish this. But I was able to do it today because I have like 2 draft videos of me singing, and I still have 1 left. So that'll be one of the videos you'll see over the summer, because during RTI tomorrow, well, I don't have really anything to do. I could study for a final, and I do not feel like doing that because I've done everything I can, done everything I know how to do. But I found out that for my geometry final, most of it is just multiple choice, and like a few are actual solving. So I think I'll be good. And so tomorrow during RTI, I will go through my Vimeo library because I have 81 items, and a lot of those are old videos that I have never posted, because I don't remember how I did it, but I think every 2 weeks or something. Let me check. I have one. I won't spoil what they are, but I have one scheduled for July 1st and then July 11th. Then we got June 21st. And then I scheduled to post something on the last day of school when I won't even have my MacBook, because we're returning in 6th period Tuesday. So yeah, July 11th, July 1st, June 21st, and then I got June 17th, and then I got June 11th. Oh, that's something I already posted. Oops. So yeah, then I have this weird short video. It's not like anything super weird, but it's like, why? It's like a 10-second short. I don't know if I'm going to post it. Maybe. Although, most of the videos I put on here, if they're under a minute, they won't even post as a short. So, anyway, guys, I will see y'all tomorrow for ASMR Friday. Then I'll post that video Monday. So, thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.